Welcome back. This will be our part 4 of our, WordPress backup slash prime mover slash all-in-one WP migration issue to find out what is really happening. So in part 1, 2, and 3, I showed how all-in-one WP migration does not actually do a real restore, real overwrite, but it adds on. And then the other issue we ran into was seems to be some sort of a hard limit where if my backup package size was over a certain point, and in the part 3 we tested and we saw that if it was below somewhere between 200 and 270 megs, you'd get updated or uploaded and restored in our SiteGround environment. However, for some reason it wasn't working when it was 270 megs and larger. So with that, I was thinking, what if we try the same approach in AWS? See if we run into the same issue or not. So now, if you have looked at part 3, you know that what we did was to make our packet size 200 megs is like we went ahead and deleted a lot of plugins that we were not using, and also during that along the way we found out that if we deleted WP Super Cache, it breaks our WordPress site, at least in the backend, in the WP admin, but not in the front end. Now, so because of that, we had to bring it back in, and that's something we're going to tackle probably in part 5. But for now, I want to see what happens in AWS. So we're going to first try to upload a 200 megs backup, which is exactly what we have in our environment right now. So we're going to download this and upload it back into AWS. But first, what we need to do is create an instance. I'm just gonna leave it. Let's just call it test. It doesn't matter, and off we go. And at this point, I'm going to pause while the instance get created because it's gonna take some time. I'll be right back. Okay, it's been a couple of minutes. I believe the environment is up. Let's see. Yep, it's connected. So let's take the IP address and let's log in here. Okay, and the username is user. Password, we can grab it from our shell session, cat bitnami. There you go, our password. Okay, cool. And then next thing I don't want you to save this password. Next thing we want to do is turn on WP migration. Now the other thing I want you to see is, hang on a second, I have altogether of 10 plugins here, and on this side I have a total of 10 as well, 6 and 4, and this is 2 and 8. Okay, and of course like Akismet anti-spam protection is here on AWS, but it's not on our site. GTM for WP is here on our Silvercard side, the source side. It's not there in the AWS environment that we just spun up. So I just wanted to show that, point it out, because we want to see what really happens after the migration is complete. So while I was waiting for the AWS instance to be ready, I went ahead and downloaded this package file onto my desktop or laptop, whatever way you see this. So now I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna try to import. Now, one thing you see over here is obviously by default setting is 80 megabytes, whereas this file is 200 megabytes. So we do need to bump up the size. If not, we are not going to be able to upload it. So that's one. So the instruction over here says from the maker of how would I say, all-in-one plugin that we can either modify the htaccess file or wp config file. However, since we are in AWS, what we can do is, and I'm going to bring this window onto this screen, is we can search here AWS LightSail increase upload size, and obviously the first one is here, and they tell us what we need to do. And this is from AWS, so I just need to modify the php.ini file and change the settings from 80 to, I guess in this case I'll do 500 or 800. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm not going to follow what the makers of or the programmers at All-in-One are suggesting me to do, just because I will show you why. Because changing it in htaccess file and doing all these things is probably going to be more challenging in AWS, and I know that from experience. Okay, so let's go here. Let's go to console. Okay. And let's go to the root and then do sudo find. Actually, let's run this command. Hang on just a second. And they're saying first grep and see copy that, bring this window here and paste it here. Oh, it's set to 80, and that's what we have. So let's do one thing: sudo vi /opt bitnami php /etc php.ini. There we go. And we are looking for 80M. There we go. So let's bump it up to 800. Okay, so that's one, and the next one is going to be by the way, somewhere on the internet I read that the by unpaid version of all-in-one WP migration has a upper limit of 512 MB. So basically, if the backup size is more than 500 MB, then it will not work unless it's a paid version. That's a test for some other day. But for now, I just want to see if it works at when a backup size is 200, what happens when it's 200, what happens when it's 270, and then probably go back and restore the site to 400 megs as it was, and see if that restores it or not. So let's save this to changes. And then the instructions on the AWS site, it's also saying, if it's this limit body request is set or not. Let's check that. Should not be there. There's nothing is set. So basically, what that basically means, if the parameter isn't specified, then there is no size restrictions, Apache web server configuration limits, which is exactly what I believe. Okay, so now we don't need to do control configuration test on Apache. We just need to restart the service. So let's do that. Command C. And it's going to take about 30 seconds, so be right back. The service has restarted, so let's see if the change has, there you go, voila, it's 800 megs. So cool. Now we can upload up to 800 megs in using the UI. And obviously, all-in-one WP migration has a fixed limit of 512. So our backup's not going to be 512. So let's start with 200. I'm going to pause and I'm going to select and be right back. Selected it. It looks like it's working. It's importing. Let's see if I stop it. Oh, look, the stop import functionality does not really work. So if I click on stop, it's not really doing anything. So there you go. That's another defect in this awesome plugin. You would think that this plugin would have gone through some level of, how would I say, QA check, quality assurance, so that when they say something, it's there, but it's not. But anyway, that's issue for another day. We can definitely close this browser window, go back to somewhere else, but let's not worry about it. I will pause until this thing finishes, and then I'll be right back. Okay, it seems like when I played around with the stop import button, it didn't really like it and it messed up the import. So I'm gonna retry it one more time and I'll be back as soon as the import is complete. I have resumed re-import or import of the same backup. We'll see what happens this time. And you could say, hey, you are actually breaking things by trying too many things at the same time. And you're right, probably. But this is a basic QA. Again, WordPress is open source. This is also open source. Anyone can do anything. But I just want to make sure that we have a plugin in our organization and for our clients, a plugin that's robust, that's solid, and that works every little time. The last thing I want to do is we use a plugin that we think is working, it doesn't really work, and then we find downstream where we are unable to restore a client's environment and we are like really looking bad. Right, and we don't want that. So, and also you should know, as whoever is watching this, if someone says, hey, we use this robust plugin called all-in-one WordPress migration, and it's a number one, they're full of crap. And up to you if you want to work with them or not. But at least if you're watching this, that we go beyond what the ratings say, what everyone say. We do our own validation and testing to make sure it is actually working. That's where we stand. Okay, enough of talking. I'm going to pause and we'll be back as soon as the import is complete. Seems like this is working this time around. Here is an interesting message. Your backup is from PHP 7, but the site you're running or you're importing to is PHP 8. This could cause import to fail. Well, why is that? Well, it seems like SiteGround is running PHP 7, which I know for a fact, and AWS always has an image of latest and greatest, so they use PHP 8, but I think it should be pretty safe. Let's proceed. Again, this is our sandbox, so we'll see what happens, and we'll be back soon. Okay, seems like it finished fine. Let's go click on finish and look at our site. Chances are it might actually have logged us out from, yep, there you go, as I expected or suspected. So there's a big difference between Prime Mover and all-in-one. With Prime Mover, you don't get logged out. With all-in-one, you do get logged out, but again, this is a minor thing. It's not the end of the world. I need the username and password. Let's pull it up. I'm gonna type cat bitnami credentials, and then the password is here. Looks like we cannot log in. Why is that? I think I know why. Because when it did a restore, it got rid of the user account called user. I suspect that's what happened. So let's try one more time, which is this one. Okay, let me make sure it's the same password, and let's see. Yep, it's the same password. No, I cannot log in. So let's do one thing. What I can do is, since I have the backup, I know who the user accounts are here. These are the two accounts, right? So I'm going to log in as admin. So I'm going to pause and I'm going to pull up the password from LastPass and be right back. Okay, I'm back in. I had to actually log in as SC SOC. But nevertheless, we were able to get back in, and I can create an account as user, but we have the password. We're good to go for now. Okay, let's look at plugins to see. We have a total of 19 plugins. Remember, what we had was 10 and 10. So as suspected, as I was telling you, and as we had proven in part 3, or was it in part 2? Excuse me, I'll be right back. I had to cough, and I didn't want to cough on the mic. So as I explained, as I showed in part 2, that all-in-one actually, when it does a restore, it creates, at least for the plugins, it adds on to what is already there, right? It doesn't remove all the existing plugins and then uploads them. So that's a bit of a challenge, I guess, right? But nevertheless, because the other way, I think, it's a challenge is because WordPress does keep an inventory of plugins in a database. So I think that might get out of sync, but it's not the end of the world. We can always fix it and whatnot. So coming back, so at least we know we were able to get our pages in here and everything. Now, before we try the next part, let's try to see what happens if we were to delete WP, not total cache, super cache. Because last time we did it in SiteGround, it broke quite a few things. So let's see if it breaks it over here or not. No, it doesn't. That's interesting, isn't it? But hey, at least we know something. But I'm gonna go put it back in just because I want to continue on the task we set out to do, which was next is we're gonna try with something that's a little bit larger backup, which is 280 megs. Okay, on my machine, I was able to locate a copy of the backup that's 280 megs. Oh, this is the wrong side. Here we go. Here, this one is 200 megs, and if you have watched part 3, you know there was a backup prior to this one, which was 280 megs, and I found a copy on my local machine, so it makes it easier. What I just have to do is go ahead and import it. So give me 30 seconds. I'm gonna go try to upload it here. Go to import. Oh, let me finish installing the WP Super Cache first. Okay, it's there. And then let's do import, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm in the process of uploading a backup that's 280 megs and seems like it's working here. However, if you remember from part 3, it did not work in SiteGround. So that's a very interesting, I guess, result. But we'll see what happens once this is all done. Okay, seems like the upload was successful, and it says your backup is from PHP 7, but the site you're importing is PHP 8. Okay, that's fine. We know from our last test that it actually works, even though that's just a nice warning. Sometimes it can fail, sometimes it may work, but in our case, it's just a sandbox environment, so we really do not. It doesn't really matter. I'm gonna pause, and we'll be back when the restore is complete. Okay, it's complete, and let's go. And we know it's going to log me out. Let's see. Yep, it sure did. And I know from my last time the password is this, and I'm there. So cool. So this also worked, as well as let's look at the installed plugins. Now it's 25. So like I said, it's adding on rather than getting rid of it. So one thing is scary is that, and we could probably test it further, where can we, what if there were some custom configuration on this box in the plugin folders, and does that get overwritten, or does this stay there? But we'll do that some other time. But at least we know that if we're restoring, one thing we should do is manually go ahead and delete all the plugins except for keep one plugin and then bring that back. And that's a workaround. But again, that's something we can put it in our notes if we do end up using this, plugin. But or we could just end up writing our own. We'll do that later on. But now, if you remember, before we reduced the size to 200 and 280 megabytes, we deleted a bunch of plugins. Now I could actually go and manually reinstall this 15 or so plugin that I deleted. But the other thing I realized is that SiteGround has backups, right? SiteGround has nightly backups. The only thing is I can just bring it back from there. So let me dig around and see where that backup is, and I will then restart the recording again. There you go, I found it, and this backup is from 9/22/2023. I'm recording this on 9/22 and it's about 10:33 a.m. here in the East Coast. So I believe this is the backup that has everything. So I'm going to say restore all files and database. Let's see what happens. Let it do the backup restore, and then once complete, I'll resume the recording again. So seems like SiteGround says the restore was completed. Let's give it a try. In our case, we will know if we get to see all the plugins. Yep, there you go, 31 plugins. So it definitely did work. And definitely we were not logged out, which is a good thing. Now let's go to backups and let's create a backup and let's see. Oh, by the way, when I create a backup, this backup is going to be almost 2 gigs. Do you know why? It's because there are backups from the Prime Mover plugins that are still within the WP content of that's inside the WP content folder. And there you go. Like I said, it's 2 GB. So what we need to do is actually, you know what? Let's try. Oh, we know with 2 GB is not going to work because there is a upper limit. So let's remove those files, Prime Mover plugin files, and then let's try and let's see. There you go. But before we do that, customer. So we go www.ls. This is it. We did this. We created the star.zz file of all the backup plugins. So what we could do is go into silvercode.com and then public HTML. And then we can go into WP content, and it's in Prime Mover. Oh. You know, I don't remember where exactly the files are. The best way to find out is to go to Prime Mover packages. Here we go. This is it. There you go. It's deleted. So when I refresh this, it's going to be now. And then when I go into backups and delete this one, we don't need this, and create a new backup, it's going to be less than 2 GB. So be right back. It's 461 megabytes. I'm going to download it and then upload it and see what happens. Be right back. I downloaded that 400 and some megabytes worth of backup, which is here 461, and I'm trying to upload it in the AWS environment, and it seems like the upload is moving on. So let's wait and see what happens. Okay, here we are. It's the same warning. It's okay. We will proceed and let's see what happens. Alrighty, we are here. It's loaded up and we are logged out. That's fine. We know that's gonna happen. So there we go. No, mister, I don't want you to save the plugin. Install plugins. We are now up to 39. It is what it is, right? We have been seeing that issue. Nevertheless, let's go and look at home. Let's look at updates. Now here's one thing I want to do. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and update. So we know from our backups and all the stuff that we have done that in our original sites there are 4 plugins that are out of date. Okay, and in the restored site there are 9 plugins. So what if we were to update all these plugins on the restored site minus the Elementor, which is fine. Where we go, auto updates enabled, update available. Okay, so now we updated everything. It's just like only one plugin that needs to be updated. So basically the difference between this site, which is 4, and our restored site is 1. Now what I'm going to do again is I'm going to do another restore and see what happens. Okay, and as you know, I'm going to pause here while I select the file that I want to upload, and we'll come back when the imports begins. Again, we know there are 4 plugins out of date or needs updates in our original or in the source site. In the AWS environment, we updated everything. There used to be 9. We updated everything except for 1. And now let's see what happens after we do the import or the restore. Be right back. Okay, it's complete. So while it does that, let me grab the password because we know we have to log in. It's almost there. Let's pause it. It's completed. Let's check. I need to log in. Now, plugins, there we go. I need to update 4 plugins as it says in the source website. So we know it's overriding the whatever the plugins are. It just does not delete the plugins that are already there. It doesn't clean up. So it's a tiny bug or defect in the software. But now we know. Okay, it's been recorded. Now if we use it, we would be good to go. With that, folks, I think that concludes our recording for today. Let me know if you have any questions. Take care. Bye-bye.